Hey everyone, Robyn Openshaw Bitcoin here. I'm here to give you bite-sized pieces, super dense, often a drink from a fire hose, but I know you're busy because I'm talking mostly to Gen X, to boomers, to women. I know you got a full-time job. You may not be able to give Bitcoin 2000 plus hours of your life like I have, so I want to make it easy for you. And what I want to talk about today is a bombshell in that quantitative tightening ended on December 1st. And if you don't know what that is, it was only really discovered that the US government was doing it in, I don't know, like the beginning of the great financial crisis, like 2008, I think. Probably was going on before then, but some hedge fund managers discovered that the government was printing money and that nothing moves markets like an increase in liquidity. Okay, liquidity is just all the money that's out there sloshing around in bank accounts and all the other places that liquid money is is sloshing around. So quantitative tightening ended, which is a government policy of making it harder to borrow, and there's less liquidity. Okay, and when there's less liquidity, it tends to keep prices down, tends to keep inflation down. It is a strategy of the Federal Reserve, and it ended on December 1st. And boom, here we are on December 3rd. And they put $13.5 billion, the Federal Reserve did, into the overnight repo facility. Okay, if I'm talking a bunch of jargon that you don't know, just know that it's a fund where banks can borrow overnight for a tiny little fee. And so, what this suggests to me is that our banking system is in trouble. Don't expect the mainstream media to tell you things like this. I mean, to listen to Trump talk or to listen to mainstream media, our economy is doing absolutely fantastic. Well, those of us out there who are actually living in the economy know otherwise. I personally think that we've been in a recession for about 2 years. And I'm not the only one who thinks that. So huge liquidity influx just a couple of days into the end of quantitative tightening. Opposite of quantitative tightening is quantitative easing, also known as QE, and that is where they print money. And I have said for the last couple of years, like printing money is not optional. When you owe $38 trillion, mostly to your own citizens and to the Federal Reserve itself, is the lender of last resort, and to other countries, it's not optional to pay, or we become insolvent and bankrupt as a country. So when you have the money printer and you have the global reserve currency, you can always print money. Now, is there a point at which we go off a cliff and the whole thing starts falling down and it's dominoes falling in a row? Absolutely. Okay. And the prevailing theory among economists, which is called modern monetary theory, is hey, don't worry about this. We've got this. We'll just print money if we need to. We can do this for a really long time. Well, they have been doing it for a really long time. And you can go with the MMT people if you want, and you can hope that just by printing money we'll be doing fine. Problem is, the whole world is trying to get away from the dollar. They've seen that we've weaponized it. So, what does this have to do with you and Bitcoin? As liquidity increases, tend to see the price of assets go up. Now, real estate, let's just sort of set that one off to the side because I don't see how the prices of real estate can go up because nobody can afford the real estate that we have right now. Okay. Literally, the real estate um, average buyer is in their mid 40s. So it's literally Gen X and boomers buying real estate, and millennials and Gen Z are just priced out. So the American dream's kind of off the table unless something radically changes there. And there's a big part of me, since I have four adult children, that hopes that real estate just crashes. Okay. It'll be terrible. It'll be catastrophic. People will be screaming. There will be all kinds of fallout from it. But this whole system that we have created, it is just the wild bubble. And you got Trump talking about having portable mortgages that you can move to another property. And Trump's talking about 50-year mortgages, which just basically keeps people on the hook and not actually paying off their house for life. But we have some positive signs here that assets like Bitcoin, gold, and silver will be the liquidity sponges. And so we have most of us been very surprised to see Bitcoin go down when so many good things are happening for Bitcoin. There wasn't this big fear, uncertainty, and doubt or FUD campaign going on. And right after the crash down to briefly 80,000, now it's in the 90,000s. We saw Vanguard, which has been one of the biggest Bitcoin haters and one of the biggest holdouts, and the second biggest assets under management, I think, in the world, for sure, in the United States. Open the doors to their investors investing in Bitcoin. Okay, they don't have their own ETF, but basically they were just sick of getting pummeled, I'm sure, by their investors. They got rid of their CEO last year who was so anti-Bitcoin. I don't know what happened with him. The official story is he retired. But anyway, interesting timing that he retired. And then suddenly they allow their investors to participate in Bitcoin. People were leaving Vanguard. This is the game theory in action. A lot of people will be in Bitcoin who don't even understand it. This opens up 50 million Vanguard investors to participating in Bitcoin, whether they know it or not, because they might have, fund managers and asset managers that they've just kind of thrown their own, wealth strategy and wealth distribution over a wall, and they don't understand anything about it, are going to be in Bitcoin. 50 million Vanguard investors. So that's hugely bullish. Shifting out of quantitative tightening, Bitcoin has gone up. Okay, despite what's happened in the last 5 or 6 weeks, Bitcoin has gone up, up, up through the Biden administration and an SEC that was decidedly hostile to Bitcoin and to cryptocurrency assets. Now we have a very decidedly pro-Bitcoin and an administration that has passed. It's not actually a law, but it's an executive order. There's a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Unfortunately, they can't really buy a ton of Bitcoin until Congress passes a law, which Senator Lummis is totally working on. But they do, they are one of the biggest Bitcoin owners in the world from seized Bitcoin. Okay, we could debate all day about whether the seizures of Bitcoin were valid or not, and whether the US is actually going to be able to legitimately hang on to those Bitcoin. But the United States administration currently has said we want to be a leader in the world in this space. Okay, probably because the United States hasn't been stocking the shiny yellow metal like BRICS countries have. And so our approach is moving into the future that it be digital money or digital gold. So I wanted to share these updates with you. We also have Bank of America advising their clients, which is also many millions of people. I don't know exactly how many, to have a Bitcoin allocation of between 1% and 4%. Okay, I think if you understand Bitcoin, you don't choose to allocate 1% to 4%. If you choose into it, if you understand what it is, you go in a lot more than 1% to 4%. But now that there's ETFs and now that there's the participation of the mainstream hedge funds and investing firms and banks, they're coming in because they're seeing, for instance, BlackRock, the biggest of them all, launch their Bitcoin ETF, which is called IBIT, and have it be the most successful launch in BlackRock's history. Okay. And they don't want to get left out of it. So that's the game theory, is that even if you haven't studied it and even if you don't like it or you don't agree with it, you end up in it anyway, all of which will be good long term for the price of Bitcoin and the stability of Bitcoin and the network effect of Bitcoin as the network grows. Okay. Square just told its 4 million vendors that they can take payments in Bitcoin. And they've facilitated that, and they've even incentivized it by letting Square, or maybe Square just made this decision themselves, that there's no fees to the vendor for the first year. Okay, so they're giving an incentive to onboard taking payments in Bitcoin. And so that's 4 million different providers. So we're seeing Bitcoin move from just a store of asset or a store of value to being an actual medium of exchange. And we need to see that for it to actually potentially replace fiat currency in a lot of ways, or maybe completely. It's hard for us to bend our brain around that reality. Elon Musk thinks that eventually there is no such thing as money. So that's a bender for us to end on. But I wanted to let you know that there's all these amazing things going on. JP Morgan Chase, the last several months, has been setting up, it looks to me, I'm not accusing them of this because it's an evolving story and we're all still putting the pieces together, but looks like they're taking shots at Sailor's strategy, which has been the number one performing stock in the world for most of the last couple of years. And JP Morgan Chase wants the regulatory agency headed by Merrill Lynch to delist them if more than 50% of their assets are held in digital assets. So maybe that's a little bit extra. I know I've fire hosed you today, but that's the short version. You could listen to hours and hours and hours on Facebook and not get all that information. I like to do it the short way. Sorry if it's sometimes a fire hose. I teach every Wednesday night. It's interactive. You ask questions. I have a co-teacher, so you're not just listening to me for 90 minutes, but give us your Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, and you will come up to speed about why this asset is so much more than the highest performing asset of the last 17 years. It's so much more than that. In fact, the reason I came into it was really to free some of my stored energy, okay, which you might call money or whatever assets you invest in, into something that could not be debased like the dollar and other fiat currencies are being debased. So that's why I came in. I came for the protection, or the debasement trade is now being talked about openly. What's your debasement trade? You got gold, you got silver, you got Bitcoin. But when I came in 6 years ago, it was about protecting my own wealth against the debasement of the dollar. The more money they print, like the $13.5 billion that the Fed just created out of thin air and put into the overnight repo facility to keep banks afloat, okay, all that hurts the value of our dollar. It all makes over time more inflation, and it means that our hard-earned dollars buy us less. So I am all about on Wednesday nights teaching you how to protect yourself, as people all over the world are. Okay, people with a need to know, people in third world countries, people who've worked their whole lives to maybe save $2,000. They're going into Bitcoin if they've taken the time to understand it. So you need to take the time to understand it. You can't do it in a 30-minute video or a 20-minute video like this. It deserves more of your attention than that. Certainly took me more time than that, and I'm pretty high IQ. And so I don't care how smart you are. I don't care if you come out of traditional finance. You got to start over learning Bitcoin because it is sort of like learning a foreign language, but it's totally worth it. Totally worth it. It's changed my life. And you're not going to buy it and keep it until it changes your life unless you understand it. Sure, you just go buy some and you don't even know what vehicle you're buying it in, and you just say, I have Bitcoin now. Most of the time, no, you don't. You have some big companies wrapper around Bitcoin they own. So we learn how you can actually own the asset yourself and be as impervious as possible from the debasement of fiat currency. So thanks for being with me, and I hope to see you on Wednesday nights in the classes down below. We have a special going on right now where you get the third month for free, and you can use the coupon code Robyn, all caps, ROBYN, to get another $50 off. And you're basically buying me and my co-teacher, Coach Willie, a cup of coffee a week. And you will find this to be the best cup of coffee you ever bought us. So with that, I will see you next time. And I really hope to see you in Wednesday night class. Bye, everyone.